Hey, Cleaning Nation, Mike Campion here with, the fan favorite, obviously, Jackson Pinkoski. I get to see him all the day, but I'll tell you, we go to events. This is the guy, like live events with our people. I think it's me, it's my pie. Everyone wants to see Mike. Of course, Jackson's a star. People, they want more Jackson. So we're gonna give the people what they want. Jackson is our marketing guy. So if you are, and I hate to say marketing guy, but if you want to get more clients and understand how to systematically get more clients for your cleaning company, this is the podcast for you. We get a lot of folks, and this may be you, who are like, I have built my entire company off repeat and referrals. And that's like just a double, it's a gift and a curse, right? It's a gift because it's great. I'm spending the best marketing is free marketing, right? That works and you get the best clients and they pay the most and life is great. So we love referrals, but the cost is you can't scale it, right? If you're like, all right, say you're doing, 30 grand a month now and you're like, cool, double your business in the next 6 months just based on referrals. You're like, well, I'll try, but I've only got so much. So for all of you guys and gals out there that are like, I get clients kind of accidentally or kind of with referrals, but I don't know how to do an A plus B equals C. If I do X and Y, I will get a god dang customer. That's what we're going to talk about today. Or that's what Jackson specializes in. So I'm going to start with a non-marketing story to lure you in, and then we'll follow up with lots of marketing stories that I think will be wildly effective for you, or client attraction stories. So I had a client, Denise, who is a sweet, sweet lady. And I think it was Denise. Maybe I'm wrong. God dang it. No, I don't think it was Denise. Sorry. I had a sweet woman. I know it was a lady who came to me with hiring troubles, or she not came to me. She's a client. She's like, hey, my hiring funnel's broken. Will you look at my, I think I need a new ad. That's almost always what they say. I think I got to update my ad. So as is my custom, I said, cool, let's look at your data. So for all of you guys listening, if you're like, well, I don't have that data, I'll tell you what data we collect so you know how to use it. And then when we talk about Jackson, he'll tell you what data you can collect. So when, if you don't have a coach like Jackson, or myself, you can go to yourself and go, self, I think I've got a marketing problem. And you go, self, let's get the data that you can do some real stuff. So when it comes to hiring, we look at applicants, interviews, starts, stops, cost per applicant. That's about it, really. Like, how much did you spend this month or this week or whatever time frame you're looking at? How many applications showed up? How many people turned into interviews? And how many of those interviews started? Super simple. So she came to me and said, I'm understaffed. My hiring funnel's broken. I think I need a new ad. I go, let's go to the data. So I started with, well, how many employees at the beginning of the month? I think we're about 3 weeks in. How many employees did you need when you started? Like, how many were you looking to hire? 10, 2? Like, what do you need to be fully staffed? She's like, I need 4. Cool. How many have you hired so far this month? She goes, well, I've hired 3. And I go, well, there's about 4 weeks in a month. And we're about 3, and we were at that point 3 weeks in, and you've hired 3. Walk me through the problem. And usually we have to go a little deeper in the math, to get into what's going on. But that was literally it. She's like, oh, well, I guess I'm on track. I said, yeah, I guess you are. So she was ready to take her ad that was working exactly the way she wanted to, or spend more money. You're thinking we're going to do something different. And really, it was just, I didn't have data. So I thought I was failing. And the reality was I wasn't failing, not at all. And it was fun because we did it in a group setting. So everyone got to have that value and go, oh, I can learn from this poor lady's mistake. And of course, she felt good, like, oh, I got it. So that happens in many aspects of our business. And marketing is probably the most insidious. So Jackson's got a couple stories of how that looks there. And then we'll just walk through like how to actually be, data, not drama, right? So she was bringing the drama. Because she was still a person short. So in her world, it had been forever, 3 weeks, and she still wasn't fully staffed. So she was miserable. So she thought her funnel was broken, but we forced the data and took out the drama. I was like, well, how many did you want? 4. How far through the process are you? 3/4. How many you got? 3. Well, you're on track. So a lot of times marketing comes that way. And we're like, my ad's busted, Jackson, or Facebook doesn't work. We do the math and it's like, I don't think that's the case at all. So Jackson, walk us through. I know you've had a couple at least, or more than a couple, but a couple you probably want to share of these scenarios with your clients. Just walk us through. So, what happened, how you coach, and how we can apply that to our final listeners.
Yeah. I guess I'll probably start with Darren's story. We just had this conversation yesterday. We were going through his billing for Google LSAs specifically, and
local
he was
service ads. Google local service ads.
Yeah, local service ads. Sorry, I say that all the time, and I just assume everybody knows the abbreviation.
70% of the audience knows. 30% was like, "Thank you, Mike. I don't know what an LSA is, so you're good."
But Darren was really upset on the billing. He's like, I was billed, $1,500. What the heck's going on? Like, why is this a thing? Why am I spending so much? I'm like, okay, well, that does seem a little high. Like for
context, was that over a month, a week, just so we all know?
It was over the course of a month. It was the month of April.
Okay, so April. So we're recording this early May.
Yeah.
He in April, Google taking $1,500 out of his account. He's like, what the what?
Yeah. It's scary. He's like, he specifically said I didn't get $1,500 worth of phone calls, or I didn't get $1,500 in phone calls. I'm like, okay. You tell me that, I immediately go, oh, that sounds a little weird, but let's take a look at what you did get, right? And he got something like 15, 20 calls. Maybe.
I'm sure you got the real data, but if it was 15, about $100 a call, which is, to me, that sounds, I know for right now, local service ads, that's expensive.
Yeah, it is expensive. And I see that, and we convey that. I'm like, that is on the high end of costs. But again, we're putting this into perspective. His area he's in, it's very competitive, so that plays a factor. But then too, when you think about local service ads, these are people actively searching. So they're more qualified when they tend to get on the call. So it's more likely you have a higher close percentage of those people. And we talked through that, and he's like, okay, but still $1,500, that's a lot. Only 15 calls. He made a bunch of faces. I was like, okay, well, let's.
Oh, let me give a quick, complete bonus. Sorry, sales bonus real quick for all of you that are out there selling, which, is all of us. If you're a business owner, you're selling employees, you're selling customers, you're selling vendors. If you're married, you're probably trying to sell your wife or your husband at some point, some concept. So we're all selling. When people say it's expensive, what I always think in my head and sometimes say out loud, and it can be helpful in the sales process, compared to what? So when we said to Darren, really that's Jackson's doing a much more eloquent version when he's like, well, let's look into it of compared to what, right? Like he goes, well, I didn't get $1,500 worth of calls. Like we'll compare what would be, let's look at that. Well, and again, I don't know if it's exactly 15, but we'll make it 15 just for the numbers because it's close. $100 a call. Well, that's high for a call compared to what? So, right. Cause he goes $1,500. That's expensive compared to what? Well, the number of calls I got, how many calls did you get? 15. That's $100 a call. That's expensive compared to what, which is where you're going. So I just want you guys to see, Warren Buffett says, price is what you pay, value is what you get, right? So that's Warren Buffett's fancy way of saying it. My poor guy way of saying is compared to what, right? Like, so I gave up $1,500. What'd I get? 15 calls. Okay, well, what did I get out of those 15 calls? Take the suspense away, Jackson. Walk us through. Keep going.
Yeah. So, the simplest solution to solving this for anybody is this. I always ask, well, what's your average customer value, right, on a monthly basis? And if you know that, great. In this case, Darren didn't know it. He's like, I have no idea. I should really know that. And I said, yeah, that would be helpful. But what we can do instead.
Compared to what? What's a client worth? No idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, $1,500 might be. If a client's worth a nickel, that's expensive. If a client's worth $1 million and you got a half a client, we're sitting pretty compared to what, Darren? Love
exactly. So, and that's okay if we don't know that. We got to figure that out. It's important to figure that out. But
and we did again. I think most people, it's super easy. What's your revenue divided by the number of clients you got? Yeah, easy peasy, guys. So if you got 10 grand in revenue and 20 clients, you do the math. It's $500 a client. Just so you know, on the residential side, as of this recording, May 2025, nationwide, it can be a little higher for more expensive areas, a little lower for cheaper areas, about $400. So if you're kind of in that $200 or $300 range on the residential side, definitely want to increase your customer value. You probably have too many once a month versus, every other week type cleanings. Commercial, completely dependent on your niche, right? So that could be, there's not an average, but for residential should be about $400. As Jackson's going to go into, you should know that. And you're like, I don't know how to get it. Literally just count your customers, divide by revenue of recurring customers. So if you have a bunch of one-time stuff, you got to take them out. So if you got, like I said, $20,000 in, we'll make the numbers easy, $20,000 in recurring revenue, and you got 20 clients, well, guess what? Your average client's $1,000 a month. Easy peasy.
Yeah. And it's an average. A lot of people get fed up. Well, I got one guy that pays me. It's like, no, it's an average. We're taking average. Averages are great.
Again, better in residential than commercial. Because commercial, you can have 50,000 a month. You could have one guy's 40,000. We're not going to say, well, our average is 38,000. Like, no. With residential, even if you got a mansion that you clean weekly and it's $1,900 or something, and you've got a cheapo guy that's 200, it's the $400 average is still like it's in play, right? Most of your clients are going to be in that band, whereas commercial averages can get a little funky if you've got 2 or 3 that are just whales and screw everything.
Yeah. So in Darren's instance, didn't know the average. So instead we went to a customer that he knew he got from LSA, or a phone call he got. And he did a bid on it, and we went through it step by step. So we paid, let's say $100. I don't remember the exact number. It was less, but we'll say 100. Paid $100 for that call, and I remember his face specifically. It was like, he's doing these always like, and I'm like, okay, Darren, okay, that's okay. $100. Let's go to the next step. What's the bid for that customer? And he's like, oh, I bid them. It was $180. And I'm like, okay, is that $180 a month? And he's like, no, that's a week. I'm like, okay, so it's going to be a weekly cleaning at $180 per clean. Let's multiply that by 4.
Multiply by 4.3, by the way.
Say that's
Here, I gotta.
4.3. He did the math right there on his little sheet, and I was like, this is perfect. What does that total come out to, Mike?
Hey Clean Nation, Mike Campion here. One of my least favorite things about these podcasts are we found that people love the show and they love the information, but when I talk to you guys in person, stuff doesn't get done. People love the podcast, but they don't take any action. If you'd like to actually implement this and get this done in your world, we have a whole team of people that do exactly that. If you go to growmycleaningcompany.com/talk, you can book a time with either myself personally or one of our teammates to at least help you come up with a plan to actually implement and change your life. So if you want to go from getting these good ideas in your head to get them in your life, just book a free call with myself or my team, growmycleaningcompany.com/talk, and we can go from this one-to-many format to one-to-one and really get you some results. Excited to talk.
Handy dandy phone calculator, 180 times 4.33, $780 a month.
So $780, and then it populated in the cell, and he looked at it and he's like, okay, $780. I'm like, okay, and you paid $100 for that phone call. And he also had his profit in there and all that stuff, so he knew what he was going to make. And his face went from the to okay, that's not too bad.
And again,
and then
your average client stay 1 month? Oh no, like 2 years. Okay, so let's take that $800 a month times 2 years. Now we're talking 30 grand for goodness sakes, man. What are we doing here?
For $100. And then the next question always is, or the next statement, exclamation I should say, is like, okay, I'm paying $100 per call. I'm not going to close every one of those, so the calls are actually a little bit more expensive. I'm like, yes, that's totally true. But because of where they're coming from, the LSAs are more qualified. Let's say you should be closing 60-70% of these calls. Even if that bumps the call cost up to $150 to $200, and your value on that customer, your average value is $800 plus over 2 years, I don't own a cleaning company. I would give that machine that money day in, day out to get those customers. It's great.
Yeah, and let's just walk through the math because Jackson went through. And by the way, so let me give you what you should be tracking. We have all this on our master tracker. If you're not with a client, make your own master tracker, right? It'll be fine. So we just literally have lead source, and then by month, January, February, whatever, and then spend per lead source, leads, bids, sales. And then you just put in how much the sales were. So you're like, I had 3 sales. Right, but those 3 sales add up to $1,000 a month, $5,000 a month. What were they, right? And those are very easy data points to get. And you fill that in, and you can chat GPT this if you need, or become a client. Quit being cheap out there. We'll do it for you. Chat GPT is cheaper. We're nicer. I don't know. Chat GPT is pretty nice. And it'll calculate, well, here's your cost per bid, and here's your cost per lead, and here's your cost per sale. So you can amortize all that out. Like, well, hold on. I know on that call that was $100, obviously I made the best deal in the world, but what about the whole $1,500? So that's the picture we want to look at. But if you just say for any lead source, and again, and just so you know, this is a much more nuanced conversation. So I'm going to stay a little bit top level. Some local service ads, even though they're targeted, a lot of times they're getting 3 or 4 different bids. So the lead quality is kind of low. So you might kind of want to lower lead cost, and like a referral, lead quality is very high, right? So you're going to take that into account. But if for local service ads, I spend $1,500 and I got 15 calls, we'd say, okay, that's 15 leads, and save those 15 leads. You're like, I only gave 10 bids, right? Some of them were just price shopping, or I didn't like this guy, or I only gave cool. We gave 10 bids. Well, how many of those did you get? Well, I only closed 5. Jackson said I should close 6 or 7. I only got 5. Okay. What's the average? We won't use his 800 because that's probably a little higher than average, and good for him. Well, say it's 400 times 5. Well, it's $2,000 a month. All of a sudden you're like, so you spent $1,500 in April and you get $2,000 of recurring revenue. That means if they stay for 2 years, that you got $48,000 of revenue off of a $1,500 ad spend, and you're sad. So that's kind of the thing you want to get your source. And then at the top of our spreadsheet, so if you're doing this yourself, you have all the sources at the bottom, and then you have it totaled at the top. So you're like, all my marketing spend was this, my average cost per lead, average cost per bid, average cost per sale. And then we just put first month ROI at the bottom, right? If I spent $1,500 and I got $2,000 of new clients, my first month ROI is like 130% or something, right? That's why I use a spreadsheet. It'll give it to you exactly. And even if your first month ROI is 70%, well, guess month you're going to be in the profit next month, because you make 140% of your spend in the first 2 months, and then after that it's infinite. So just want to encourage you guys and gals, that's the data that you need. If you're like, well, how do we do all this stuff? Lead source, cost per lead, cost per bid, cost per sale, and then have the calculations do for you. What was my ROI and all that sort of stuff. So just wanted to take that into big, because I can't see people, well, you're just picking the one best lead that makes the best sense. It's like, yeah, but if you just do the math of $100 a call, and only say of those calls, only half of them turn into bids. Cool. Now it's $200 a bid, and say, well, I don't get 60, 70%, Jackson. I only get 50%. Cool. That's $400 a sale. Well, if your average sale is $400, you're like, why did I make anything? Month one, you knucklehead. Actually, it cost you money, because you got to spend $200 to clean the goddamn thing. But next month, you make up all that, and then every month after that, it's free money. So again, as much as I love referrals, would I rather have an ATM where I get a free $400 a month client 0 to 3 times a month, or an ATM where I put in $400 and I get a $400 a month client, but I can get 3 or 5 or 10 or whatever the lead source is every month? I'll take the one, I'll pay for it, right? I'd rather have the more scalable lead source that I can depend on that costs me a little bit than, Jackson might refer me a friend today and he might not. And I like the free, I'm super into the free, but I can't beat him or whip him. If you don't refer me, you don't refer me. I'm kind of dumb here, right? Whereas ads, you can beat him, you can whip him. You're like, how about more money? How about more money? Anyway, sorry, I'm getting real ranty, Jackson. You're right in the middle of Darren's saga, and I can't help but scream over everything.
No, that was a really good thing. And I will say, Darren picked that lead. I didn't. So he picked one out of the list. He could have picked a crappier.
Pick one out of a hat, right? Yeah, he made you look good accidentally, trying to prove you wrong. Did you get so I can scratch that itch, did you get the how many sales he had that month and what the actual ROI? If you can remember, great. If not, you don't have to beat yourself up.
No, we didn't, because we had a lot of people on the call. I will say calls are popular, but he was going to go back through, and we were going to go over it next week on Monday. So we didn't get to that point. But he did have a lot. There was a lot of volume, so it would probably taken like an hour to go through it all.
But the good thing is, if he just picked one random lead and he was, positive after 2 or 3 months, I'm sure if we picked, I'm sure that wasn't the only sale he made out of those 15 calls. So it's he thought he was losing money and Google was screwing him. He found out, wow, I'm actually making money. I just don't know how much yet. And I'm sure he's got the spreadsheet. He can fill it out and figure it out. But so how do we distill that down? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying we tend to focus on, it's a lot easier for us to focus on the negative or the hard aspect, I guess. So like the money going out, the credit card getting billed, or the fact that you're spending, to overlook. I mean, everybody does this, to overlook stuff coming in or the benefits of it. But once, like, having that sheet and having those numbers visually displayed like that makes a world of difference.
And again, either being disciplined enough to follow the data yourself, or having a coach that can be disciplined enough to force you to look at the data, not the drama. Because what Darren said, and I wasn't on the call, but this is enough of these calls, I know how they go. Some version of, I spent $1,500, I got screwed. Most of those leads were garbage. And that could all be true, right? Maybe he did spend 15. Well, the getting screwed, I think that would be hard to verify. But I spent $1,500. I only got 1,500. I only got 15 calls for $1,500, which is very few. And most of those leads sucked. That can all be true, and it can still be a really good investment. So let's say you spend $1,500, he got 15 calls, 10 sucked. Of the 5 that were good, he only closed 3, and those 3 are average $400 a month. That's $1,200 a month. Again, month 1, you spend $1,500, you only got $1,200 back. But month 2, now you spent the same $1,500, you get $2,400 back. And next month, $3,600 back. And then it just goes on and on. So really focus. Yeah, it's true. I think we've got the negative to focus on the problems, which is fine when they're a real problem. But again, that's why we go data, not drama. The data will make sure and that's the nice thing about focusing on the data. When there is a real problem, we know it's a real problem. So you don't just have this gut feeling of my marketing sucks, LSA screwed me, my hiring ad's not working. And it's just like, well, if we're solving the wrong problem, he might have solved the wrong problem. Go, LSA suck, let's try door hangers, and that didn't work. Let's try direct mail. Let's try cold calling. He could have just kept going thing to thing to thing, but he was on a thing that worked. But because he thought it sucked, he could have literally just stopped spending that money that was crushing it for him, and then gone to another thing that the drama, the data, you know, at the beginning, the drama of the salesperson, like, it's going to be great. You're going to make $1 million. So the drama is high and we buy, and then we look at the money going out. We don't understand how to really analyze, and then the drama goes low, and then we keep kind of stopping and starting things based on our emotions versus on just hard data of, I put $1 in, I got $2 out. This is a good deal. And over the next year or 2 or 3, I'll get $100 out. All right. So how do we package that up? That's kind of a good story. So what message or takeaway would you give to our fine listeners that are like, cool, I kind of get it, but now what?
Now what? Spend money. I guess, maybe this is too meta, but I'm going to tie into Alex Hormozy, who Mike just saw.
Just got back from his event, by the way. Really good. Go ahead.
Yeah. And he says it's great, so I'll steal from him, but I won't claim it as my own. When you're marketing, or when you're spending on these channels, there's a fear of spending your money, like Darren's fear of getting billed $1,500, and that's when you know you're doing it right, because it is your hard-earned money. It is a process of going through it. And then there's the fear of, well, I only broke even, or I didn't break even that first month. Mm-hmm. But the reassurance is knowing I will have that the second month, the third month, the fourth month. You have the data, you have the numbers. So yes, you see the money going out, but visualizing the money coming in month over month, that is, that fear is normal, having that fear, and that's okay. If you don't have that fear, then something's wrong, or you probably are wasting money. But when you have that kind of inkling of, oh, this is money going out, but I know I've got that $1,500, the $2,000 coming in month over month, I'm going to be good. I'm going to stick with it. And over time, it gets a little bit easier. And you grow, it compounds. It's constantly compounding, which is really, really important. It's not like this is going to be like this every single month. It's compounding, right? Because you add 2,000, then you get that 2,000, but then you add another 3,000. So now you're getting 5 plus another 6, yada, yada, yada. Before you know it, spending $2,000 a month on your calls seems like a fart in the wind. As another one of our clients says, Don says fart in the wind a lot. So.
All right. I'm going to tie it up with one kind of last bonus saying on what Jackson said. Built into his assumptions of how the marketing could and should work is that you're doing recurring clients. So some of you out there are doing one-time stuff, or move in or move out, which is fine, but the numbers don't work that way, right? So say you spend $300 to get a $500 move out clean or move in clean. Well, gosh, if your labor is half, right? So say you get a $1,000 job, your labor is half. So of that 1,000, you spend 500 in gross profit. Well, only 500. If you spend 300 to get the job, that's only $200, which isn't nothing, but there's risk that they don't pay. There's a lot of, it's a real thin margin. So the reason we're so into the recurring stuff is just like Jackson said, and that's assuming you get the marketing right off the bat. A lot of times you don't. It can take a couple months, which if you've got recurring revenue, that'll just make up for, and really it's not recurring revenue, it's lifetime value, right? So, or lifetime gross profit, if we're going to go with our friend Alex Hormozy. So just want to encourage you, when you're doing the marketing, the higher lifetime value or lifetime gross profit your client has, the more mistakes you can make, right? So if you are doing one-time stuff and a client is only worth $500 or $1,000, yeah, you should be really nervous about spending $200 or $300 to get a client, because you've got to pay for the margin. There's the risk that the job goes bad, blah, blah, blah. But when it's the same money coming in, coming out. So there's a lot of beautiful things that we don't appreciate sometimes about cleaning companies with the recurring revenue. And one of them is we can, our marketing dollar, well, just think about it, right? If your client is worth $400, an average one stays 24 months, your marketing dollar goes 24 times as far as if you're just selling clients one time at 400, right? And if you are, just for anyone that's snuck in here that's not a cleaning company owner or is just doing one-time stuff, the only way that works, really the only way that works at scale is you got to find something else to sell them, right? You either got to find a way to do $10,000, $20,000 jobs, which that's typically post-construction cleanup, which are highly risky because you could make a mistake on the bid and just a lot goes wrong with those. But you either find a way you got to increase lifetime value so you can get a higher ticket price, which, that could work. If you get a $20,000 job off $1,000 ad spend and it's only one time, fine. Or you increase how often they buy, which is sell them something, right? So even if you're doing one-time work, try and sell them something that's recurring, right? So that'll free business thing there for everybody. All right, guys, gals, I know we've covered quite a bit. Take some action, right? If you're as always, don't just go, that was interesting, and feel a little smarter. Look at your business, and if it's getting you what you want, keep doing more of that. If it's not getting what you want, do something different, right? If you need some help, reach out to us, reach out to somebody. Go ask ChatGPT and make your data. Actually, that's a perfect first step. Reach out to us and be like, hey, I want to be a customer. We'll give it to you. Don't just become a customer for that, but whatever. Or go to ChatGPT right now, make that spreadsheet, right? Like that would be a great first step of I'm going to get the data. I'll go over it one last time. Lead source, right? Is it Google local service ads? Is it Facebook ad? Whatever your lead source is. How much should I spend over that month? How many leads did I get? How many bids did I get? How many sales did I get? Sales you want in dollars and numbers. I got 3 sales totaling $1,200, and then have Google Sheets or whatever your spreadsheet is, do the math to tell you what your cost per lead, cost per bid, cost per sale, and first month ROI is. So that's a great to do. Either call someone to do this for you or get some goddamn help. So you're working on, and the same thing works with numbers, by the way, and your financials. Data, not drama, all the way down. So either get yourself some data or get someone that can help you get some data. That's your action item. Go get them. Talk to you soon.
Hey, Cleaning Nation, if you dug the content you just got, we don't do any ads and I don't sell anything on this podcast, but if you would just subscribe, rate, and review, it would be huge and I'd be so appreciative. Not only is it going to help me, but you'll help other owners of cleaning companies across the world work less, make more, and get profitable. So if you appreciate the value we give, again, subscribe, rate, and review. It would mean the world to me. I'd really appreciate it. And we sure appreciate your time and attention.